Charlotte from Charlotte So Natural, and welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. This is Wednesday. I'm getting it on the right day for another week in a row. I think we've only missed one. So if you have not seen my videos before, I just am trying to give you a quick tip or something that I found through doing lots of practice, that this is the best way to do something. And I do this without thinking. I butt my seam allowances and make intersections nice and clean. Somebody said to me, why don't you do a Wisdom Wednesday on how you do that? Because I'm often having to rip them out because they don't meet. And I thought, oh, okay, I'll do that. So this was a suggestion. And so this is what I'm talking about. If you are doing a large quilt, these might really stand out if they weren't matched. And you can see these are matched pretty nicely. And these are done by pressing the seam allowances this direction towards the dark in this case. And then we do what we call nesting to make those seam allowances, to make the seams come to a point. So this is a simple 4-patch. And the way I do that is I've sewn my pieces together. So I have my square sewn to my half square triangle unit, and now I have pressed the seam allowances opposite directions, and now I want those to go together. So I can feel that through many years of experience. I can feel right away that that's flat. Now the way I pin, and you can see from my little chain that that's going straight across, I pin parallel to the seam allowance, parallel to the edge of the fabric. And so that's very flat. Now I'm holding this in 2 positions with the 1 pin. So that is going to go under the sewing machine. So it would be like that, and we're going to sew there. This is going to want to push away because the hump is on the top. And so we need to really be holding that. So I'm going to stitch right down with my needle. I'm going to be right there before I take my pin out. I'm not going to sew over the pin, but I'm going to leave it in absolutely as long as I can. So when I have that opened, I can see that worked really well. So I have a really good alternating seam allowances with a nice point. So if you're really having trouble, and Lily was working on a paper piece project this weekend, and she said that she had to rip out several times because she had quite a bit of bulk there. She had several layers of fabric because the sections were getting smaller. Not totally unlike this smaller Kim Deal project where there are lots of little pieces coming together, so there's lots of seam allowances in a relatively small area. But truly that intersection is the exact same size as this intersection. It's the exact same at the critical moment. But if you're having difficulty with a project, the other thing you can do is use some glue. So what I did with this one is I dabbed just a little bit of glue right, so if I know my seam allowance is there, I dabbed it right on the edge of this piece of fabric and right there. So just in the intersection, then I put it together. And the nice thing about this Roxanne's Glue Basic Glue is that when you iron it with an iron, then it becomes solid right away. So that you can see before I've sewn it that that is going to match when I sew it. The other tip is that I want to make sure, like let's say I was sewing it on this side and I wanted all these points to match. So this one, if I want to sew this so that these are matching, then I have some more fabrics in here. And that again could be very helpful to touch that with a dab of glue so it will hold all of that. The other thing that's really critical is that you have a 1/4 of an inch from the edge, the end of the point of stitching to the edge. You need to have a 1/4 of an inch there. And I've sewn this in black so that you can see it, but this is also sewn in black. And that's just an exhibit that people get sometimes really picky about what color thread they're sewing with, but I sewed this entire block in black and it does not show on the outside. But this is a great tool. This is called the Corner Cut 60, and it is marked with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, a 1/4 inch plus seam allowance, and a 1/4 inch negative, which is what we would call a scant 1/4 inch. So you can see, I can check my sewing here. This is indeed the scant 1/4 inch right there. So I know that this should sew together well, and I'll check the other side at the same time. So there is, get one layer out here. So this one is a little bit generous. So this one is perfect on this side and not perfect here. So I could actually trim that if I really wanted to make sure that everything was going to match. I could trim that before I sewed to make sure that I still have those two butting together. So I would lay that together. I'm going to really snug it up with my fingers. I can feel it's really nice and tight. I'm going to put in my pin. And then you can see maybe the print of the fabric disguises it some, but that really matches well. And you can see there. So anyway, that's my tip for the day, that butting seam allowances, if you use a pin and do it crosswise so you have 2 points in the intersection holding it together, or you can even use a little touch of glue and nobody will think less of you for it, but your pieces will really match. So hope you're having a great week and we hope to see you soon. Thanks.